Fitness on the airways. My name is Michael James and I'm the co-owner of Primal Fitness in here, Double Bay in Sydney, Australia. Apologies about the light, I'm not that tech savvy yet, but hopefully we'll get some good information across this evening. I'm very excited to introduce the viewers to the two wonderful Kates who will be helping us and sharing their wisdom and their insights this evening. We have Kate Callahan, who is a dietitian and nutritionist, and we have Kate Johnston, who is a naturopath and nutritionist. Kate Callahan, good evening. How are you?
Hello.
You well?
I'm well. I'm just trying to keep my cat off the keyboard here.
Yeah, blame the cat. Blame the cat. Now, Kate, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, okay, so I am a nutritionist, dietitian to be. So I'm going to be a dietitian at the end of the year, not currently. I'm a personal trainer. I work at Primal Fitness as well. I've worked in the health and fitness industry for 12 years now. I am a holistic nutritionist, so focusing on every aspect of life, not just food.
Great. And now, Kate, who do you like working with, or who are your sort of special areas of expertise?
I like working with a range of different people. I don't have any one specific target market, but at the moment I'm more focusing in on eating disorders, specifically female eating disorders, and mental health.
Excellent. Okay, that's good to know. Welcome, and we look forward to getting your expertise over the next little while. And it's a very good evening to Miss Kate Johnston. Hello, KJ, how are you?
Hello, I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Very well, thank you for joining us this evening. And can you tell us a little bit about yourself, Kate?
So I'm also a nutritionist and naturopath to be. So I'm like Kate, I'll be graduating from naturopathy at the end of this year. I own a company called Core Wellbeing, so I do nutrition consultations as well as running workshops and seminars and cooking classes, those sorts of things.
Brilliant.
For me, I guess also I work with a really wide range of clients. I have a special passion, I guess, for digestive health and gut issues. I also really enjoy working with kids and busy people, because trying to implement, I guess, health practices when you're quite time poor can be tough. So, yeah, that would be.
Fantastic. That's great, Kate. Very warm welcome to you this evening. Now, okay, so we're going to fire away. We've had some questions that have been emailed in earlier in the week, so we're going to start with those. Now, just for the viewers at home, if you can see the little banner that I've put up there, if you do have a question or a comment and you're watching this live, you can actually tweet through, and if you put the hashtag PrimalQ and A in your tweet, that should come through here to me in ground control over here. So we'll see how I go. So the first question is Kate Callahan. It's a question from Kylie Ann from WA, who's a very good personal trainer over in the West. And she's asked what the best strategy is nutrition-wise for hypertrophy or muscle gain.
Okay, great. Yeah, so as you said, hypertrophy is muscle gain. The thing with hypertrophy is people tend to want to do everything all at once. So they want to kind of get ripped, but they want to build muscle at the same time, whereas you can only really do one thing at a time. So if you want to focus on hypertrophy, I'd suggest leaning out first, stripping away the body fat, and then once you get there, in order to get muscle hypertrophy, you need to eat more. Good foods to eat more of, your protein-rich foods, but also things like milk. Generally, I'm not a huge fan of milk for all people, but in terms of hypertrophy, and if you handle dairy well, it can be good to have post-workout along with a protein shake, including some carbs in your foods as well, so not being too restrictive. Not a lot of sugar, because that's probably just going to add fat rather than muscle. So more sort of your protein, starchy vegetables, a little bit of good fats, so your butter, your coconut oil, but not going too crazy on that. And the dairy as a post-workout shake is always a good option for hypertrophy.
That's excellent, Kate. And when you're talking about carbs, I mean, that's obviously a buzzword in life at the moment. So when you're talking about good carbs, what would be some examples that we would probably look at in the primal sort of community? And is there a specific time that would be better than others?
Yeah. Okay, so good carbs would be things like your sweet potato, your your parsnip, your pumpkin, although pumpkin's not actually that high in carbohydrates, so more your sweet potatoes and your potatoes in that post-workout window. Also, if you're looking sort of in the first 30 minutes, you want to get some sort of fast carbs in, so your dairy is going to give you some carbs as well, but then later on as well, having some longer lasting carbs, so slower release, so your starchy vegetables. But looking into something like your carb backloading might be worthwhile in terms of hypertrophy. So training in the afternoon, and then using that window after you've exercised, when you're insulin sensitive, to really go crazy on the carbs. But yeah, if it's something they're interested in, I'd suggest looking at carb backloading.
Okay, great. So there's a couple of really key points there, Kate, that you've mentioned. We want to make sure that we get our goals sorted. So one is leaning down, one is building up. So understanding the difference between the two. And secondly, still keeping a very sort of healthy approach. It's not sort of a gung-ho approach when it's talking about putting on size. I notice you're still referring to good quality nutrients. And maybe utilising sort of milk proteins post-workout where tolerated.
Yeah, absolutely. If you think of milk feeds a baby cow, gets a baby cow into a big cow. So.
It works. Mother's milk. All right, thanks, Kate. Thank you. Okay, now, KJ, we've got one for you, and the question is, what are some measures that we can take to minimise the chance of catching that nasty cold bug that's going around this year, or even sort of something a little bit worse?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that you can do. So from a food point of view, I definitely recommend eating more seasonally, and even for people who tend to follow a more raw food diet, it's not as appropriate going into the winter months. So you really want to be keeping that heat in your body, so eating foods like your broths and soups, specifically like miso soup, which also has really good probiotic cultures. Lots of casseroles, so slow cooked casseroles, and those foods that are really nutrient dense and warming. Also keeping up your sort of vitamin C and antioxidant status. So while you might not be having raw salads all the time, making sure that you are still having that spectrum of colours in your diet, and you don't want to be overcooking the vegetables because you are going to deplete a lot of the nutrients there. You can also do it through supplementation. So a really good multivitamin is a great way to just support yourself. And also vitamin C, I think, is important all the time, but exceptionally important going into those kind of cold and flu months. Also looking at herbs like echinacea and olive leaf. They're very supportive for the immune system, and herbs that you can take reasonably long term. If you do find that you're coming down with a cold or flu, you want to steer away from, sorry Kate, but I'd say steer away from dairy and milk products. Yeah, they can be quite mucus forming in the body, so you just want to decrease that, I guess, as much as possible. And also steering away from your really sugary foods, refined sugars, excessive amounts of fruit, and that sort of thing, other than, say, like your lemons and oranges and the ones where you're going to get a lot of that vitamin C content. Also including garlic and onion, ginger, turmeric, those beautiful spices that are going to be nice and warming and stimulating the immune system as well.
Great. That's a very long list. I hope people rewind that and play it back with a pen. That's good, Kate. A little bit of a topical one, a controversial one. I'd be interested to get your your expertise and advice on it with regard to, I've heard it talked about before with regard to supplementation. If we again think of the primal sort of lifestyle, and presumably there weren't too many sort of herbal supplement stands, in the cave, why do we need to take supplements now?
Few reasons. Firstly, I guess, while we can definitely adapt parts of that sort of primal lifestyle and nutrition to our life today, we live vastly different lives. So, our primal ancestors, I guess, weren't sitting in an office block. They weren't sitting at the desk for 8 hours a day. There's a lot of differences between the way they lived and the way we live now. And as a result, there are a lot of, I guess, there's a lot of health impacts from the way that we live today. Another thing is the soil and the way that we produce our food today. It's far less nutrient dense. Our soil is really depleted, and there was actually a study done in 2004 in the States, and they examined 43 fruits and vegetables and their vitamin and mineral content from, I can't remember the year, but from years earlier, and then examined the same 43 fruits and vegetables today, and this was based on their USDA's records, and not a single nutrient had gone up. So they actually found that vitamin C had gone down. I think it was 18%. Calcium was also down significantly. Iron around 12% depleted, and that's despite our supposed advances in terms of farming and agriculture.
Yeah.
So even if we try to eat a really nutrient-dense diet and try to eat sort of a more primal and whole foods diet, we're actually not able to get the same nutrition that our ancestors were. So I think supplementation, like obviously getting the nutrients from your diet is the priority, but supplementation certainly has a place and a therapeutic need, I guess.
Very good. Very thorough. Thank you, Kate. That makes perfect sense. Now, KC, Mrs. Callahan, back over to you. Natalie from Sydney has forwarded in a question. It was regarding eating your meat raw or rare, and are there any sort of health benefits in doing so?
Okay. I think there's benefits to both sides, eating cooked meat and eating raw meat. Going back to what Kate said before about the raw food during winter and when you have a cold, I completely agree with her. I think you should eat more warming foods to support your digestion during the winter. So I would say stick to the summer for your raw foods and your raw meats as well.
Right.
The reason why people tend to eat raw foods and raw meats is because they say the enzymes are still present in them, and there's more nutrition. And that is the case with some foods. I especially believe it's the case in terms of fish, so your oily fish. I think when you get a really good quality salmon, I think it's a lot better for you to eat in the raw state.
Okay.
It's got very fragile oils, or the omega-3 fatty acids. They're very delicate, susceptible to oxidation and damage. So I think they're better to eat in the raw form. But other meats...
They taste pretty good as well.
Yeah, exactly. But then your other meats, such as your meat on the bone, you're going to get so much more benefit out of that when you cook it, obviously, when you slow cook it. And so you're getting the nutrients out of the bone with it, all the gelatin and all the nourishing foods for your digestive system. I don't think raw food is good for everyone either. I think if you have digestive problems, any digestive problems at all, I don't think raw food's right for you, especially if you have low stomach acid at all. A sign that you might have low stomach acid is if you have constant reflux. That can be an indication that you have low stomach acid. If you do have any digestive problems, including low stomach acid, any celiac disease, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, then you need kind of all the help that you can get to break down those foods. So something that's already partially broken down and cooked is going to be a lot more gentle on your
Hmm.
digestive system. However, in saying that, at the other end of the spectrum, you shouldn't cook things too much. So when you have a steak, it should be kind of bloody, but just warmed through. Sorry to any vegetarians listening.
I don't think we have too many vegetarian followers, Kate. It's okay. So, very interesting point there. And one thing that I'm going to commend both of you on is the fact that whilst this is, fairly generic advice that you're giving, you're both making it very clear that individual circumstances do vary, and anyone with any sort of underlying issue or problem really should be seeking specialist advice and not necessarily just following generic tips across the board. And so, I commend you both for saying that. And I think it's important that we do get that out there, that if people do have health issues, some of these finer topics that we're talking about are probably a little bit further down the spectrum. Would you agree that we look at before we sort of, we should be looking at maybe fixing the big things first?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, KJ, over to you. We've got a question on rice. And is either white or brown or both rice good for us?
So I guess I sit on the fence with this one, and as you said, it kind of comes down to the individual requirements and what's best for that person at that point in time. Obviously, brown rice is more nutrient dense. It hasn't been refined, so you haven't lost a lot of those vitamins and minerals that we are trying to get through our diet. However, it can be more difficult for people to digest. White rice is kind of one of those low allergenic foods, so it's low reactive. It's fairly well tolerated by most people, and I guess it's most people again. It's always an exception. And while it has been refined and it hasn't got those, the B vitamins and the minerals and that additional nutrition, it does kind of serve a purpose for people. So, for example, if you were experiencing diarrhea, or if you were someone who had IBS and that kind of diarrhea-prone IBS, then white rice can actually be really useful for kind of helping to bind the stool and to reduce the symptoms that you're experiencing. So maybe it's a question of what you're trying to achieve by eating the rice. I personally kind of see it as a filler in a meal. It's never like I would sit down to a bowl of rice and that would be dinner. If you were doing that, then brown rice is obviously more nutritious, and that'd be the way to go. But if it is something on the side and it's more just there to get a little bit of carbohydrate, or to, as I said, as a filler, I'm not completely opposed to white rice. As long as you're balancing it then with a good protein and some fats. So obviously it is quite, high in sugar. Your body's going to quickly convert it to glucose, and we don't want to have those blood sugar spikes. But if you're balancing it out with some good protein and fats, then it's not the devil. It's quite well tolerated.
So potentially in an instance like that, if we refer back to one of Kate's earlier questions with regard to muscle hypertrophy and carb backloading, where, say, someone's goal was to be putting on muscle size and they trained in the afternoon, leaving that post-workout window into the evening, would white rice in that particular instance be serving a purpose that would be advantageous to their goal?
I'm not a personal trainer, so I can't speak completely. I don't have a huge amount of knowledge in that area, but I would say in terms of being a fast release carbohydrate that's going to be quite well tolerated, then it would, in my mind, serve a purpose there. Yeah.
Well, I think that's what I was trying to do there, balance up the fact that you'd said that it did have particular benefits, and Kate Callahan had also earlier mentioned that having those fast release carbohydrates post-workout was advantageous for that particular goal of muscle hypertrophy. So thanks for that one. Okay, moving along, we've just had a question come in, and I'm going to pass it over to Mrs. Callahan. Kate, is it okay to be eating the same type of food every day For example, eggs.
I eat eggs every day. I
And you're
mentioned it.
okay. And you're
I
okay,
mentioned it
aren't
in my placement the other day and got a disgusted look. I said I have 2 eggs every day, and they were disgusted. Um, I think there is some validity behind that thinking. Potentially, again, if someone's got digestive issues, then overdoing things like eggs may cause problems with food allergies and intolerances. It's not so much the egg yolk, but the egg white that surrounds the yolk. If you think that the yolk is basically the part of the egg that's the chicken is trying to protect, that's what's going to be growing. So it's protected by the white around it and the shell. Obviously, you're not going to eat the shell because no one does that. And the white
It's a great
contains.
you? You
source
haven't
of
seen me crack an
calcium.
egg.
I do throw it in my bone broths, not eating it raw. But the egg white is actually quite allergenic, which is why you should never have raw egg whites. You should always
Yep.
cook them. Egg yolks, however, are highly nutritious, and you can have them cooked or raw. They're probably better only slightly cooked or raw. Throw them into some smoothies. But coming back to having things every day, I think it's fine, but purely from getting a bit of variety in your diet, I think it's good to mix things up. So maybe every second day, or have eggs with greens one day, and eggs with bacon the next day.
Please say bacon.
Bacon. I said bacon.
Yes,
Record
I
that.
know.
But yeah, I think it's important to get a variety of foods from a variety of protein sources and fruits and vegetables and lots of different colors for your vitamins and minerals. But if for some reason someone didn't like having different meats, they only liked eggs, then go for the eggs. If it's your source of protein, then have the eggs. The only way to find out if it's going to cause you a problem is to try it.
Yeah, cool. Okay, that's a good one. Now, the next one is over to you, KJ. We're going to talk about sunscreen. And obviously, again, it's another kind of topical. It's another topical event that we've been talking about over the last few years. Now, do you have a particular thought on the sunscreens that are on the market and what might be best for a country where we generally get plenty of sun, and most Australians do love a tan and love sunbaking?
Thank you for bringing up tanning. These lights are making me look exceptionally pale, so I'm glad I've had a chance to just say I'm not as pale as I look here. I'm not a ghost. Sunscreen, commercially prepared sunscreen, so the ones that you buy in the supermarket or chemists, or actually even the Cancer Council sometimes, the issue that I have with them is around how synthetic they are, and the the ingredients that are then being absorbed into your bloodstream, into your lymphatics. There's a whole heap of sort of research and concern around the nanoparticles and how that could be damaging DNA. And I'm not a supporter of sunscreen, despite my pasty skin. One of the things I think that a couple of things. The whole sunscreen culture and the fact that people get really religious with reapplying their sunscreen and making sure they're protected all the time it's contributing now to the widespread vitamin D deficiency that we're seeing in people. The other thing, and it's not sunscreen, but sunglasses are contributing also not only to the vitamin D deficiency, but also to how much you get sunburnt. So on your retina, so on the back of your eye, you actually have receptors that are going to almost interpret how much sun you're being exposed to, and that's going to stimulate the melanocytes, so the I guess the cells or the bits in your skin that are going to react to the sun. So that's going to, if you're not wearing sunglasses and you're in the sun, then your body is more able to protect you itself, and also is going to be more able to absorb the vitamin D and convert it efficiently. That said, there's obviously certain groups of people, so those who are very fair, with red hair and burn quite easily, that do need to have some sun protection. There are natural sunscreens on the market. Most of those, the active ingredient will be zinc oxide, which is fairly benign. So the molecule is actually too large to be absorbed completely by the skin. So that's why when you put the zinc on, you look really white, and it's not going to sink in completely, but it does reflect those UVA and UVB rays. There are other things like your coconut oil, your jojoba oil, hemp oil that sort of have a marginal sunscreen effect. And you can buy some completely natural sunscreens that are just a combination of different types of oils that they don't have like an SPF factor, I guess. They can't be completely registered that way, but they do have a protective effect. The other thing is to keep your antioxidant status up. So again, through consuming your brightly coloured fruits and vegetables. And there's actually been some research done on taking a combination of vitamin C and vitamin E, and they found that that's had a positive effect on sun protection. And it wasn't even at huge amounts. I think it was around 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day, and I think it was about 1,000 international units of vitamin E, or roughly, I think. So, yeah, I don't think sunscreen is the be-all and end-all of sun protection.
So potentially stay away, or at least be very mindful of any commercial sunscreens that you're buying.
Yes.
And know that there are sort of combinations of natural oils that will do a job on top of some other healthy aspects of your lifestyle.
Yeah. And I guess be sensible as well, like that whole 11 till 3 window. It's important to get some sun during that time, because that's when you're going to most efficiently create that vitamin D. But, if you're going to lie out on the beach from 9 a.m. until the sun goes down, then with no sunscreen, then you're kind of asking for a little bit of trouble.
I remember a movie, I think it was called something about Mary, where the old lady had the sun reflector up on the balcony. It wasn't a terrifically good look. Okay, thank you, KJ. Now, Mrs. Callahan, we're going to go back over to you and ask whether or not, and this is where Kate Johnson answered this a little bit earlier, or touched on this a little bit earlier, about eating seasonally, and obviously that there is a lot of fruit that's readily available right throughout the year. Should we be eating fruit in the colder months?
Wow. Yes. I don't see a reason not to. Sorry, I'm just composing myself. Okay, so we're told to eat fruit. We're told we need to eat more fruit all the time. What is more fruit? So the problem with that sort of guideline is you find people having like 5 pieces of fruit a day, and they're having that fruit in place of their vegetables because they're just told to have more fruit. And fruit can be healthy. It is healthy, but we can only tolerate the sugar in fruit, the fructose, in large amounts. Nobody can tolerate well. So we can only tolerate maximum of about 25 grams a day, so only about 2 pieces of fruit per day. More than that, and you start to notice digestive system problems such as bloating, constipation, or diarrhea, wind, which no one really wants, and just feeling a little bit not right. Some people might be able to handle more, but most people can't. In terms of having it in the winter, I don't see a problem with it. Eating seasonally is important though, and generally in the winter there's less fruit available. I know you might go to Woolworths and think that there's still an abundance of fruit, but it's important to go and eat organic if you can. If you can't have organic, at least go to your farmer's market or do research on what's seasonal in your area. Because I think sometimes it's hard for us to actually know now what's seasonal, because when we go to Woolworths, everything's available at all times. So what is seasonal? So I think it's important to check that out. And again, limit your fruit consumption to 2 serves a day and load up more on vegetables. I don't think we eat enough vegetables. And limiting dried fruit. I wouldn't have too much dried fruit. It's kind of really high in sugar and not much else, and can cause a lot more digestive problems. And we're more inclined to eat a whole bag of dried dates rather than sort of one piece of fresh fruit. Does that answer it?
Yeah, it does. And I think the question, it was from Matthew in Sydney, and I think the context was that sometimes in the primal sort of way of life, things can be misconstrued that they need to be black or white, and fruit is one of those potential areas of contention where some people say that's it, you can't have fruit, or you can't have fruit in winter, or and they draw a heavy line in the sand. So the question was, along those lines, and I think you answered it well by saying that it's all part of a balance.
I think if someone's sort of just coming into this primal paleo lifestyle, it can potentially be beneficial to take fruit out for a little while, even if it's just a month or 2 months, and then reintroduce it and see how you feel. A lot of people do feel better without fruit for a short amount of time, especially if you have any autoimmune conditions. So when I say autoimmune, I mean things like Hashimoto's, thyroiditis, psoriasis, PCOS, celiac disease, things like that. Rheumatoid arthritis. You may benefit from taking fruit out for a month, but that includes taking other things out, like a whole bunch of other things, but that we're not going into detail that they're in there. So some people can benefit from taking it out for the short term and then reintroducing it as you feel fit. I think also if you do follow this primal paleo way of life, sometimes fruit can be beneficial in terms of getting a little bit more carbohydrates in the diet, especially if you're a female and doing exercise. I think we need a little bit more carbohydrates than males can get away with.
Okay. Now, KJ, I see you nodding your head over there. Have you got anything you'd like to add on that particular topic on fruit?
Well, I was actually just starting to think about apple crumble.
It is Sunday night after all.
You can definitely cook fruits really nicely as well. So, doing stewed fruits and having that with, say, a porridge, or, it's a really great snack, as Kate said, if you are trying to get a little bit more carbohydrate into your diet, and definitely eating seasonally. Like I guess the energetics of food as well. Following the seasons, your body's just going to be more in harmony with what's going on externally if you're eating that way. So I wouldn't say, black or white, yes, fruit in summer and no in winter. Like fruit can be eaten all year round as long as it's the seasonal fruits. And go and make some apple crumble.
Apple crumble is in season all year round.
Absolutely.
I'll have you know. Very good. Okay, thanks, ladies. Now, we're going to have another question, and I'm going to sort of leave this one open to the both of you. KC, I might start with you. And it's a topic called intermittent fasting, and it seems to be everywhere at the moment. And the question has come in, what is the buzz about intermittent fasting? Over to you.
Was the question from a male or a female?
I can't answer that.
Well, there's a different answer for males and females. Okay, so what is intermittent fasting? Basically, it revolves around just eating your food in a small window, rather than grazing from dawn till dusk. You might limit your intake just to 8 hours of the day. So for 16 hours, you won't eat anything. So you might have an early dinner, go to bed, wake up, and have a late breakfast or an early lunch. I think it's been misconstrued as a lower calorie diet, because people miss out that meal and they don't make up for it. But it's important to get all of your food in that 8-hour window. Now, the reasoning behind it is it gives your body time to repair and for cellular renewal. They call it autophagy, where it allows your own cells to kind of kill themselves, which sounds bad, but we need cell death for cellular renewal. It's a natural process. So it's allowing your body to go through that cellular renewal process. Giving your digestive system a break. It's been shown to have some really beneficial effects in terms of body composition. Let me clarify that, only for males. For females, it hasn't been shown to have the same effect, and for females it can be quite detrimental. Our reproductive systems and our cycles are really, really quite fragile and complicated and delicate, and they don't do as well with that fasting. In saying that, I who have noticed good results from it, females, but I wouldn't generally recommend it. It's also not good for people who don't have all in a row. So when I say that, you need to first ensure that you're sleeping adequately, at least, well, everyone's different, but making sure you're well rested. I always recommend 8 hours a night. Some people do better less, but I always recommend 8 hours in a dark room, making sure you're really well rested. Stress is a huge factor as well. Intermittent fasting is going to place a stress on your body. If you're already stressed in terms of your work life, doing too much exercise, stressed about family situations, then intermittent fasting is just going to add another negative stress rather than a good stress on your body. Then again, you want to get your nutrition really nailed down, and have a bit of a routine in terms of your nutrition, so you know that you can squeeze all that food into that window. And then also your exercise as well, not going too manic on those days that you're fasting.
Very good. KJ?
Yeah, I totally agree with Kate. I do have a few clients who have kind of been toying with the idea of intermittent fasting now, and a few other friends and colleagues. And I guess my first question to them is always why, like, what are you trying to achieve? If the answer is weight loss, straight away it's a no. Like, just don't even go there. Intermittent fasting, as Kate said, isn't supposed to be a lower calorie way of eating. It's not a diet where you're trying to lose weight. I guess the result for some people is weight loss. But the reason that, the research was sort of done and people started looking into the idea of fasting was more around, that cellular regeneration, longevity, that sort of thing. So I don't think it's suitable for most people, especially in the way that we live our lives today. People are really busy, working full-time, sometimes working 2 jobs or 1 job that has 2 jobs worth of hours, and then outside of that running families and trying to exercise. And I think as Kate said, it just is another stress to the body, both in the sense that, mentally you're going to be thinking, okay, now I can't eat from X time to Y time, or some people are doing the whole 5 and 2, so 5 days of eating and 2 days of only around 500 calories. But it's also a stress on the body, just while it does have that, I guess, benefit of allowing yourself time to regenerate properly. Any time without food, you have to start, eating into other stores to get energy and, for your brain and your muscles. And unless you can go and sit on a beach or in a cave somewhere and do that, yeah, it's just not really viable for most people, I would say.
Okay, that's a good point. Now, Kate Callahan, you mentioned quite strongly about it's something that women should not look at, and it is something for men. When you're talking about the pros of intermittent fasting or the benefits of it, and you're talking about the cellular regeneration, why or how else would women get that without intermittent fasting?
We do get it naturally.
Well, you do live longer.
Pardon?
You do live longer.
Well, that's why we don't need to do it.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking.
Look, to be honest, I'm not entirely sure. I just know that the research on the benefits of intermittent fasting is done on males, and women just tend to fall apart. Anecdotally, what I've noticed, women fall apart when they start to intermittent fast. They lose their period. Everything goes downhill. Yeah.
Yeah, no, fair enough. No, it's I think it's a very valid point, and it was well worth stressing. There's a big difference between males and females in this particular sort of, and it is, it's a real buzz at the moment, right around the world, with things like CrossFit having, spread like wildfire. CrossFitters are really embracing all things paleo and primal, and one of those real sort of little 1%ers at the moment that the primal sort of community are talking about is intermittent fasting. So, I think it's great that you both were able to sort of highlight, where it might be effective, but more importantly, where it's definitely not appropriate. And I think that's where our listeners and our viewers are going to get most benefit from. So, ladies, I want to wrap up by saying thank you very much for your time. Now, Kate Callahan, because I've got the video on you at the moment, can you just wrap up by telling the viewers at home, hello, Charlie?
Sorry, that's what I thought you were going to ask.
No animals were harmed in the making of this YouTube video. Would you be able to tell the viewers at home, Kate, how that they can get in contact with you? We see your Twitter name up there, ATG Nutrition, and what would be involved if someone wanted to utilise your professional services?
Yes, I consult on Saturdays mostly, but I also consult outside of business hours because I am currently doing my dietetics placement in hospitals, which takes up my time 9 to 5. However, I am available after that most evenings. To contact me, you can tweet me. You can go onto my Facebook page, which is Against the Grain Nutrition, or my personal Facebook page, which is Kate Callahan, or you can go through the Primal Fitness website. That's probably the best way to do it.
Great, fantastic. Rather than try and track you down.
Rather than say all my email address. Next week I might have it on my little dongle at the bottom.
Well, I know. We don't want to get too snazzy on our first video. We got to leave room for improvement.
Exactly.
That is my motto in life. I'm leaving room for improvement. So thank you, Kate Callahan, and we bid you adieu. And Kate Johnston, over to you. How do people get in touch with you, and what's the dealio?
So I also consult sort of outside of business hours, and Thursdays is my main day that you can catch me in the clinic. Best way to contact me, I'd say jump on my website also, so www.corewellbeing, it's spelled Kore and then wellbeing.com.au, or Facebook. My contact details, email and phone number available on both of those. Yeah, I'd love to hear from you. And
of course, everyone can get in contact with you also through us at Primal Fitness as
well. Yes, whoops, I forgot that. Yes.
Well, now that you have your lovely posters up in our studio, I want to plug them.
Great.
Ladies, thank you very much for a very educational evening. I personally got a lot out of it, and I'm sure all of our viewers at home are going to get some great little bits of advice. And we look forward to more of your professional wisdom in the near future. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.